So with my third point, I wanted to say that suppose we have a page like this, and every time when we open the page, the count of the checkboxes varies dynamically. So currently you can see there are 5 checkboxes, but say for example next time when you open the same page, you can see 10 checkboxes. Or and again when you open you can see 100 checkboxes, and then again you open, you see no checkbox at all, zero checkbox. So in that case, and we have to perform operation on all the checkboxes, like we have to check all the checkboxes, whether the count is 100 or whether the count is 10, doesn't matter. So in this case we use a descriptive programming concept, but which has a child object concept. So I'll explain you what is child object. Here we knew that the first 2 points which I explained you was about performing operation on dynamically varying description. So that wasn't a problem. Using descriptive programming, we can use dynamically varying description and perform operation on them. And the second point was to perform operation on common objects belonging to the identical class, and as we saw that we performed operation on the checkboxes which belong and all of them belong to the same class, that is web checkbox. Now third case is we are performing on the performing operations on the objects which are belonging to the identical class, but they are varying dynamically. So as I said, when we open the page, it can vary dynamically. So in that case, we use a concept called as child object. Okay. So let's see what is child object. Okay, before moving to child object, I would like to explain you the 2 ways of writing the descriptive programming. The first way I showed you was writing the property value pair in the code itself. As you can see, we wrote the property value pair in the web checkbox. In the code itself, we wrote the property value pair that for class name and the name. Now there is another method as well. So the first method is writing directly in the code, whereas the second method is using an object which will save the properties of the object, and it will we can use that object for performing the operation. Okay, so I'll explain you the second method below. Now what we are doing is, for web checkbox to identify for the QTP to identify the web checkbox uniquely, we are using this two property value pair. So what I'll do is, instead of using directly in the code, I'll put it in an object. So first of all, I have to define an object. Okay, so the syntax for defining an object is set. So object name can be anything. So let's say I'll give object itself equal to description.create. Now this is the syntax for setting an object. Set object name equal to description.create. What it does is, object is a name which is given by me. It can be any name. So this is like a variable. Like variable we define same way we have an object which could be defined. Now in object oriented programming, as you can see in my object repository, these are the different objects. Like say for example, browser is an object. The name of the object is my employee page. The class is browser. So this is an object. Inside this object there is another object which belongs to the class page, and the name is my employee page. So these are the different objects present in the object repository. Same way we can also define new objects in the code by using this syntax. So it is set object name equal to description.create. So this object will have the properties of the web checkbox. So I can give any name to this. Now the coding standard which we normally follow is I've written O in small. Okay, like for integer variable we write I following with some logical name to the integer variable. Same way we begin with a small O for object, saying that this is an object, followed with some logical name. So I've just for your understanding, I've given the name object itself. You can give any logical name so that it would help you to understand more about the variable or the object, what it wants to say. So once I set the object, I have to just save this properties which help me to identify the class, that is web checkbox. So the property value pair will come in this way. Object, in bracket you have to give the name of the property, that is class name, equal to property value, that is web checkbox. And same way for second property, in a new line you have to write the object name and in bracket the property name for the web checkbox, that is name, the second property value pair, and the value will be dpt1. Now what we are doing is in this way we are storing the values of the property and the value pair in this object. Okay, now the code will be almost the same. As you can see, browser.page.web checkbox, and instead of writing the property value pair directly in the code, what we'll do is we'll write the object name inside the web checkbox bracket, that is object. Now this object is having the property value pair saved in it. So when QTP runs this line of code, it will search for the browser page and then the web checkbox which is containing the object. Now QTP knows that this is an object because we have defined it as an object using this syntax. So once QTP knows this is an object, it will search for the property and the value pair which are defined for the object. So once it finds that class name is web checkbox and name is department1, so it will just perform the operation on that, on the object which has this property. And you know guys, the first checkbox has this property. Okay, so I'll just comment this code and we'll run the new code which will perform the same operation. The only difference is we are not writing the code directly in the program. Instead we are using an object to define the property and value. Okay guys, one more thing is you have to mention dot value over here. Since the property value, the property class name as value web checkbox, whereas property name as value dpt1. Okay, so now when I run the code, as you can see, it has checked the first checkbox. So QTP is able to identify the object successfully using descriptive programming, but not directly in the code, but using an object. So these are two ways of using your descriptive programming. One by writing directly in the code, second is by using an object. So now we know how to write the code for descriptive programming. I'll explain you the concept of child object, which will help me define my third application for descriptive programming.